4 days prior to the U.S. presidential election in 2004, a recently released video makes its news debut. Following the September 11 attacks, foreign policy decisions dominated the election between George W. Bush and John Kerry. Hey, welcome to Starlight Buzz. If you enjoy what you see today, consider subscribing and hitting that like button. We're on a mission for 2,000 subscribers before this Christmas, and your support means the world. Let's jump into today's video. Al-Qaeda's key members and associates have been brought. Nation to destroy, capture, kill Osama bin Laden and all of the terrorists. This audio, which was released by Al Jazeera, features a recovered Osama bin Laden taking far more direct credit for the attacks than he did previously. It is a terrible reminder that the most wanted guy on the planet must be feeling somewhat safe wherever he may be, given the staging of this audio in which bin Laden attempts to appear as some legitimate entity directly addressing the nation that he attacked. Simultaneously, virtually all leads had run cold at the CIA headquarters in Virginia, where a special squad was assigned to track down bin Laden. This was particularly disappointing because, almost 3 years earlier, they thought they were getting close to apprehending him. Al-Qaeda terrorists had been driven into the eastern region of Afghanistan by the time the U.S. withdrew its invasion of the nation in 2001. American intelligence officials believed that bin Laden was among them when they locked themselves in the Tora Bora caves. Local Afghan tribes fought through the terrain with massive bombings and support from the Americans, but bin Laden had already left before the war was finished. With the combat over, the CIA emerged empty-handed, having lost what could have been a once-in-a-lifetime chance to apprehend Al-Qaeda's chief. Only roughly 20 people were taken into custody. But ultimately, at least one of the individuals detained here would provide a clue that could be pursued by detectives. The detectives had never heard of Mohammed al-Qahtani before his capture. He claimed he was in Afghanistan to further his passion in falconry and denied having any ties to Al-Qaeda. However, after obtaining his fingerprints, detectives discovered a match in their database. They discovered that he had attempted to enter the country a few weeks prior to the September 11 attacks. Having $2,800 in cash on him and a one-way ticket, Al-Qahtani was refused admission into the country by a customs agent who suspected him of attempting to enter the country illegally. The detectives were also aware that a call was made from Orlando Airport to an Al-Qaeda phone number in the United States that same day. Because of the monitoring of this number and Qahtani's simultaneous presence at the airport, detectives were pressed to find a link of some kind between these incidents. After searching through countless hours of surveillance footage from airports, FBI agents were eventually able to find further clues. They were successful in locating a vehicle that Mohammed Atta had been renting at the time. Atta led the September 11 attacks and flew American Airlines Flight 11, which crashed into the World Trade Center's North Tower. It was determined that Atta was awaiting Qahtani's pickup at the airport. Most people agree that Qahtani was one of the hijackers of United Airlines Flight 93, which crashed in Pennsylvania while the passengers were trying to regain control and did not reach the attacker's intended target. After learning this, Qahtani was questioned and became one of several Al-Qaeda hostages who, over the next few months and years, helped investigators get a deeper understanding of the inner workings of the organization. The group's logistician, Abu Zubaydah, was apprehended in March 2002 and provided the CIA with evidence indicating that the attacks on America were masterminded by Al-Qaeda's operational commander, Khalid Sheikh Mohammed. He was again arrested a year later. In addition, Qahtani disclosed that in July 2001, as part of the planning for the attacks, he was introduced by Khalid Sheikh Mohammed to an individual who wasn't even known to the CIA, Abu Ahmed al-Kuwaiti. Kuwaiti provided Qahtani with operational security training, with less experienced agents, a layer of command and planning, and bin Laden as the organization's commander. All of this helped investigators better comprehend Al-Qaeda's organizational structure, but they were still in the dark regarding bin Laden's whereabouts. in order to determine who was in close contact with him and how he interacted from his hiding spot. The CIA started mapping relationships. Although bin Laden's family members and private network were examined, no communication was found between bin Laden and his identified relatives. However, the CIA was aware that bin Laden was still receiving messages. New audio recordings surfaced in the years that followed, confirming his communication with Al-Qaeda officials. Therefore, the CIA's plan was to locate the network of couriers, individuals who move information. Hassan Gul was taken into custody by Kurdish security forces in the middle of January 2004. He had a letter addressed to bin Laden in his possession. After Gul was turned up to the Americans, they questioned him and learned vital information that suggested a vital figure in the hunt for bin Laden had already been identified by the agency. According to Hassan Gul, bin Laden uses Abu Ahmed al-Kuwaiti as his personal courier. Investigators learned contradicting details about Kuwait's involvement with Al-Qaeda as the investigation centers on him, while Hassan Gul speaks of a more prominent role and states that Kuwaitis knew both Khalid Sheikh Mohammed and his successor, Abu Faraj al-Libi. Khalid Sheikh Mohammed disputes a significant part played by Kuwaitis and asserts that the latter have long ago retired and are no longer in the workforce. During May of 2005, Abu Faraj al-Libi was detained in Pakistan as well, and he too strongly denied Kuwaiti involvement. Investigators were also investigating a guy known as Hambali, the former Southeast Asian chief of Al-Qaeda Asian Associates Group, since he was in charge of a safe house in Karachi at the time the Taliban were fleeing Afghanistan. He insisted that Kuwaiti did have a part to play. If anything, Kuwaiti's participation was made more fascinating by the numerous contradicting assertions made about it. According to a 2014 Senate Intelligence Committee report that looked into the specific interrogations, these methods were useless and did not contribute to learning more about bin Laden. In addition, there's the matter of whether the disclosure of the CIA's activities, seemingly liberated from the legal system, doesn't harm the nation's national security in and of itself. One is a conversation that goes beyond what one video can cover. However, since the investigators are at a loss once more, the upcoming details will not originate from their own research. The NSA had received phone numbers suspected of being connected to Kuwaitis from a third country, which were now intercepted. In June 2010, the Kuwaiti and his brother changed the way they communicated with their cell phones, which allowed them to be geolocated. Among the innumerable conversations that were monitored, one man stood out because he fit the profile of a Kuwaiti. He spoke a mix of Arabic and Pashto, the language spoken in northwest Pakistan. As it became increasingly clear that this person was Kuwaiti, efforts were made to track him down on the ground. In August 2010, a Pakistani CIA agent was able to identify him in his car in Peshawar, and from there, he was surreptitiously followed on his way home. Additionally, the investigators noted that this person goes to great lengths to avoid being tracked. He appears to have only recently switched the battery in his cell phone when he was in the vicinity of Peshawar. The large house surprised investigators. Since Kuwaiti had now been identified, the agents had assumed that they would follow him until he got close to bin Laden's hideout. However, when examining the large facility where Kuwaitis reside, investigators speculated that Kuwaitis might already be there, sharing a roof with bin Laden. The intelligence agents were no longer in charge of this mission, but with a group of special forces that had very little idea of what to anticipate from a raid on this location. The mission was complicated by the fact that the U.S. government had decided not to notify Pakistan of the operation, which meant the Navy SEALs had to avoid getting noticed. This seemed especially challenging, considering that bin Laden's complex is located right next to a Pakistani military academy. With the mission not going as planned, a live video feed is streamed to the White House, where the president and his top security advisors are following the operation. That's all for now. I hope you enjoyed the video. Let us know your thoughts in the comments section. See you in the next video. Please subscribe to our channel and click the bell button to receive new updates.